Hey guys, what's up? I made a video about this a couple years ago, but the thing about my channel is I'll make a video one time and then just move on. But honestly, some of these concepts I'm trying to go over are very important. And what I've learned from the Groxt is that I need to repeat concepts because he'll repeat the same thing a lot because he's just confirming and corroborating with people who've never seen every other video, whereas I took the exact opposite approach. I just made one video about a topic and then moved on. But of late, I've been learning that not everyone's going to look at every freaking video you make. And obviously, you need to, if you find something important, reiterate it. So, anyway, enough for the intro. As you can see, I'm going to go into the book of Mark and it hiding the astrological symbolism of every single sign. Sorry. And I'm getting this from The Gospel and the Zodiac by Bill Darlison. I don't agree with him about everything, but what he has to say here is quite important. Um, as we know, the book of Mark, it's not the first book of the New Testament. That's the book of Matthew. But the book of Mark is known to be the oldest book in the Bible, in the New Testament. The book of Job is the oldest in the whole Bible, as far as dating back to it. But the book of Mark in the New Testament is the oldest. And so, as you can see, all the chapter layouts of each sign, I'm going to go over the concepts in each verse that specifically hides these things. If you don't know much about the signs, you can obviously just Google it. I've been studying it for over a decade. I don't care what people think. I find patterns. I guess people's signs. I understand the patterns that God hides. Because Psalm 19 says, the heavens declare the glory of God. So astrology is tied into the Bible, and the Bible is tied into astrology. Space and time are part of the historical model that the ancients were studying and recording. So if we look into Aries, I'll just go briefly over each sign as we get to it. Aries is the first sign. It's a fire sign, very impulsive. It rules the head. It's like a ram. It likes to just get things done. So if you notice in the first, in a couple of these verses, you'll see the word like immediately or straightway. You see this word straightway almost 5 times. Straightway, immediately, immediately. It's all about initiation, okay? And it's all about let's get this going, okay? I know the first book of the Bible would be like, well, yeah, they're getting stuff going because it's the first chapter. But after a while, once you keep seeing straightway and immediately, and all this stuff immediately, it's kind of just hiding somewhat Aries type tendencies, like, okay, let's get this going. Now when we go to Taurus, Taurus is an earth sign. It's more laid back. It's about material value, and actually one of the 3 deacons of the Taurus is the teacher. So, of course, in chapter 4 in the book of Mark is exactly when Jesus began to teach. And he was by the seaside, and there was gathered unto him a great multitude. They entered a ship and sat in the sea, and the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. And as you can see, it's a lot of agricultural references because Taurus is concerned with the earth, and because it's an earth sign. It's the first earth element in the zodiac. So a lot of references to physical land, and the fact that he starts teaching. Now Gemini is the great communicator, okay? And in Mark 4:35 through 6:29, you'll see a lot of symbolism like that. And it says, and Jesus departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men did marvel. Not Jesus departed, the prophets. But anyway, to publish is a very Gemini quality. It's the sign of journalism. They're about personal communication. And right here he says, and he called unto him the 12, his apostles, and began to send them forth 2 by 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits. 2, well, Gemini is the sign of the twin, so that's another symbolic thing. And it says, others said that it is ALIES, and others said that it is a prophet or is one of the prophets. And this is when the prophets are telling Jesus all the gossip of the day right now. And Gemini, of course, is about gossiping. Okay? Now we get to the sign of Cancer, the first water sign, the water element. They're all about compassion and family and being home and taking care of people with food. So what happens during the Cancer part of the book of Mark? It says he saw many people, and he had compassion towards them. Cancer is the first literally compassionate sign. Um, and then he gives them 5 loaves and 2 fishes. He starts to feed them. And he's starting to care for his people, just like the Cancer sign. And also, it's talking about being honest and being sensitive. So Jesus said, "Are ye so without understanding also? Do ye not perceive that whatsoever thing from without entereth into the man, it cannot defile him? But because it entereth not into his heart, but into the belly, and goes out into the drought, purging all meats. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornication, murders. All these things come from within and defile the man." So he's just talking about how everything's an emotional effect, and it's not just about your actions anymore. It's about your thoughts. Um, and then he said, "Let the children be fed," and of course, once again, that's about nurturing, which is Cancer. Now let's go to Leo, a fire sign. It's all about confidence in the ego, and it is the lion, and they're very self-assured. So, of course, Jesus starts talking about if you're too much of a Leo. He says, "For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his soul?" That's a warning for the ego that rules. Satan rules self. Jesus said, "Deny self." So just be careful. And it says, "The Son of Man shall be ashamed when he cometh in the glory of his Father with his holy angels." And later on in the Bible, it says Jesus comes back as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So he's talking about when the Son of Man comes back during the lion archetype in the Bible. If any of this is true, if it's all fake, then it's just a lot of coincidences. And now we go to Virgo, which is the sign of the servant or the handmaiden. And Jesus sat down, called the 12, and said unto them, "If any man desire to be first, the same shall be last of all, and servant of all." So he's literally talking about being a servant to mankind. I thought that was interesting. And now I go to Libra in Mark 10, 1 through 31. "And the Pharisees came to him and asked him, Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife, tempting him?" This is it. It's talking about the law. The Libra is the scales of judgment. Okay, they're very good in legal matters. And so they just happen to be talking about the law right now. Okay, instead of him feeding everyone and, warning you about your ego or talking about gossip, during the Libra section, it's about the law, the scales. And it says, "It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." It's talking about what is right and what is wrong, okay? Weighing good and evil. And this is all about the Libra archetype. Now once we go to Scorpio, it's going to be death. Scorpio is the sign of death and resurrection, pretty much. It says, "The Son of Man shall be delivered unto the chief priests and unto the scribes, and they shall condemn him to death, and shall kill him, and scourge him." This is all part of the Scorpio symbolism. And now, "For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many." He's talking about he's going to die for everyone, right at the Scorpio archetype of intensity and death. Now Sagittarius. This one's kind of interesting because, as we know, the Sagittarius is the half man, half horse. So, right at the section of Sagittarius, they talk about that. "And saith unto them, Go your way into the village over against you, and as soon as ye have entered into it, ye shall find a colt tied, whereon never a man sat." So it's talking about the horse with a man on top. And that's the Sagittarius, the horse with the man. That's very interesting. And then later it says, "And he taught, saying unto them, Is it not written, My house shall be called of all nations the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves." And this is when he overthrows the gambling tables set up in the synagogues, the churches back then. And Jesus is like, "What the hey?" So he overturns him, and Sagittarius is the sign of rebellion and philosophical revolutions. He wasn't turning over tables during the sign of Cancer. he was feeding kids. But once we get to the Sagittarius archetype, he's talking about what's really the problem here. And now we go to Capricorn, and Capricorn is literally the dictator, the authoritarian, the rule setter. So what do they talk about? And say unto him, by what authority doest thou these things? And who gave thee this authority to do these things? In the resurrection, therefore, when they shall rise, whose wife shall be of them? For the seven had her to wife. Okay? And it's talking about which is the first commandment of them all. It's talking about God as an authority. And now we go to Aquarius, which is our current zodiacal age. It's, Aquarius is the man of the zodiac, so the son of man. So now it's going to be talking about the end times, basically. During the end times, it starts the age of Aquarius. Sadly, it's not the age of unity like the hippies want. It's the age of the end. Okay, it's talking about wars and rumors of wars. It's talking about earthquakes in diverse places, famines, the beginning of sorrow. These are the beginning of sorrows, but take heed, for they shall deliver you up to councils. So when all this stuff is showing us that's a sign that Jesus is coming back. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great water and power. And the guy was saying clouds are little water bearers, technically. That's where the rain comes from, the clouds. And what is Aquarius? The water bearer. Okay, and it says also, verily I say unto you that this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Now he's not talking about this generation like, the baby boomers and then the hippie age. He's talking about zodiacal generation. This generation, this zodiacal age shall not pass until all these things will be done. He's talking about this in the age of Pisces right now. He's talking about the age of Aquarius. All right. Here's one. And being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious. And she brake the box and poured it on his head. It's the pouring out of water, like the sign of Aquarius does. He literally pours out water, and that's his sign, his symbol, his pouring out knowledge. And lastly, here's the most obvious one, guys. And he sendeth forth two of his disciples, and saith unto them, go ye into the city, and there shall meet you a man bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him. This is the Aquarius. After he sees the man bearing a pitcher of water, they go into the supper. The Grox has talked about this, Aquarius being the age of the Last Supper, or the wedding feast of the Lamb. And after you see the man bearing a pitcher of water, once it's the age of Aquarius, during the chapters of Aquarius, you'll see me. He'll come. All right, now lastly is Pisces. Thanks for sticking around, y'all. It's the last sign, so it's the house of hidden secrets, betrayal, ding, 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 Judas, spiritual, psychic powers, epic culmination. So, what do we got here? Jesus said, verily I say unto you, one of you which eateth with me shall betray me. That's Pisces. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Pisces is the sign of the arts and music and just kind of general escapism. They like to fill their time with, artsy-fartsy stuff. I do too. But I also like knowledge and truth. And then later it says, my soul is exceeding sorrowful unto death. Tarry ye here and watch. And he cometh and finding them sleeping. Pisces is the sign of dreams and the unconscious and the spiritual world. And then they all keep talking about sleep. But here's the finale. They clothed him with purple and played a crown of thorns and put it about his head. Anyone will tell you that the color of Pisces is purple. So they highlight the resurrection, him being betrayed, them keeping Judas keeping secrets against him, but it's all fulfilling prophecy. And y'all need to buy this book because the book goes into it a little bit more. I just did the highlights because that's what I do. I like to sum up 300 pages in 10 minutes so you can, be interested all of a sudden about life again. So check out this book. It's really good. It goes into a lot of that stuff. And here are the chapters if you want to read the book of Mark yourself. This is the division. This is the division of the signs throughout the book of Mark. So check it out. It's the oldest book in the New Testament, so of course it's going to hide the oldest knowledge of all, which is space and time. The precession of the equinoxes, the archetypes of our personalities. If you want to say, oh, the planets don't control us, yeah, well, God does. So what if God is using these planets and signs and archetypes, the 12 signs, the 12 apostles, the 12 everything? What if he's using these archetypes to define his chosen people? Okay. So, I believe it. The Bible hides every aspect. Know how to search for all of it yet. If only the Illuminati would tell us the rest instead of us having to find out on our own. Later.